Okay, up next on the agenda, if you take a look, team, here we go. I got Luke up next, and I had Luke, this is almost a follow-up message, if you will, from our last A-Squad call. And let me give you the concern that I had and what stood out, and what I think Luke did a good job, at least the two of us, sharing on the A-Squad call. And I really want to hit this point again, and I don't think you can hit this enough, that there's too much, I think the lack of prioritization or understanding where to be putting our time. We were putting too much time into the wrong things, okay? For example, I think we were putting too much time into personal development. And, you know, I think sometimes we get limited information. Like we get limited information and we run with it. So Luke says, hey, where you are personally before the summer has dictated for him, and most people, by the way, like the better summers. Better personally, great summer. Not as good personally, not as good summer. And you can make that correlation, but if you just extract that part and you don't know what he's talking about, you could say, well, let me just continuously read books and learn speed reading and get 19 books knocked out in 3 weeks, and let me grow myself and listen to podcasts, and you forget your basic training. And I think that's just it's a common mistake, not for Cutco, but in all business, when you extrapolate just information that sounds good to you or that you want to hear that's sexy. Okay, or you extrapolate really good content, but you don't get all the details. So I wanted Luke to take a second shot here of, and maybe you want to switch or?
I can just do it from here.
Yeah, okay, you can do it from there. So Luke's going to
switch sound when you're done.
There it is. Okay, so Luke, we're gonna have you go from there. So I'm gonna turn things over to Luke. We'll do snaps for Luke. Snaps for Luke. There we go.
All right.
I'm gonna turn things over to Luke.
I lost my mouse. Here we go. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, I'll mute. I'll mute. Go ahead.
Cool.
You need to mute your computer, not the. Yeah, hit that. There you go.
Better now?
Are you mute?
I don't even have Zoom up. It won't go for me. It says will not respond.
Are you sure you're muted? I don't know what to do here. Oh, I got it here. No, I can't be muted.
Audio on the TV?
We're not connected to the TV.
I can. I'll turn up the volume here. Here we go.
The ghost of my Zoom.
It's fine.
Is this better? Everyone can hear me? Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. So yeah, I love that I'm giving this talk because I remember I think when I was kind of at the peak of my personal growth before 2017, I gave a talk with the same exact title, From Now Till Summer. So it's kind of both vindicating for me to know that I'm in a good place to be able to give this talk right now. So thank you, Jeff, for that. But also, I'm going to be talking about, kind of having a baseline of logistics that you need for your office. I'm going to be talking about some personal growth stuff. I think there's a balance between, wait, Vargas, you're waving at me. Can everyone else hear me? Yeah, Vargas, that's a Puerto Rico problem, bro. So I'm going to be talking about some personal growth stuff. I think there's seasons for personal growth. I think you should never neglect personal growth. So I want to kind of boil down, no matter where you are, what is it you should be focusing on now? And then lastly, and really the bulk of my talk or the best part of my talk, I think, is I want to talk about just some productivity habits and how to overcome procrastination. Because I think one of the biggest things that plagues people right now is just procrastination on a bunch of different things. And I think everyone's procrastinating something in their life right now, whether it has to do with your office or not. So I think it's one of the most powerful things to be able to overcome. And I've actually been reading a lot about that lately. So I'm excited to share some value with you guys on that. But first, I want you guys, new sheet of notes or new piece of paper or whatever. I want this to be all on its own. And right at the top, I want you to put take action now. Because I think so many great talks we hear, we just kind of get information overload and we hear it and we're like, wow, I got so much value, but I don't take action. So I want that to be staring you right in the face. This whole talk, have that right at the top, write it down in all caps. If you already write in your handwriting is all caps, then go ahead, bold it and underline it or something. So I want that to be the main part of this message, and whatever you take away from it, just take action on something. And if you take action on something that you wouldn't have before, then I did my job. Okay. Also, no matter where you are with your personal growth or wherever you are with your office logistics, also don't beat yourself up over where you are right now or what you haven't done. If you're behind, and also if you're way ahead, don't get complacent, because I think that's another dangerous place that someone can hear a talk like this and be like, oh, I'm set, we're good to go. And then, it's very easy between now and summer to get behind as well. So no matter where you are, take action from where you are, and you're going to be better off by the time summer comes around. But first I want to talk about, kind of my personal growth journey. Also, at this point, don't take your growth for granted. I was looking back on when I was an AM. A lot of you are coming off of an AM summer, either coming off your first summer, coming off an AM summer, or coming off a branch summer, going in for next level. And the amount of growth stuff that we are exposed to now, and just how we grow as a division, is so different compared to the division that Andrew and I came up in. And when I think back to when I was an AM, I was a chotch. I was not even that great of an AM, and we were not talking about the same things then that we do now. And you guys are so far ahead of the curve compared to where this division was years ago. So don't take it for granted. You don't always need to have like extreme breakthroughs in everything that you do, and just expect that at all times, because quite frankly, a lot of the simplest stuff we talk about now would have been way over my head back in 2014, 2015 and stuff. I have a little picture of me in here when I was an AM. This is Jeff and I, my AM summer.
Yeah.
I don't know what those shoes are, but it's my all black suit and my prom tie. I look great. But like I said, I was nothing special coming off my AM summer going into branch, and like I said, the stuff we're talking about now is just nothing compared, or just worlds above what we were talking about back then before my summer. So like I said, don't have too high expectations for what you can do over the course of a year. But also, just to show you where I can be now, this is me now. And I've been hitting the gym a lot lately, waking up early and everything, and that's the power of you just take this thing one year at a time. That's what you can look like. So that's that. All right, but like I said, you guys are light years further than where I was back then. So don't take it for granted. You should always be a little bit dissatisfied with your personal growth. Ed Milet talks about blissful dissatisfaction, and kind of the blissfulness comes from just the little bits of progress that you can make every single day. Not everything is massive breakthroughs, and then dissatisfaction is you always want to be better tomorrow than you were today. And Jeff said before this, where every summer for my Vector career has been a direct reflection of where I was personally. But the reason that that's been the case is because I always had these baseline logistics in place, and if you don't have that, these are what plugs the big holes in your ship. If you can make sure you don't have the big holes in your ship before you start the summer, that's when the summer will be a direct reflection of your own personal growth. And that's when that will really kick it off, but you need these baseline logistics in place, whereas, no matter where you are personally, if you don't have certain things buttoned up, you're going to have huge holes in your ship that could cripple you for the summer, so I want to talk about these baseline logistics, what these are, and then after that, we'll talk about some personal growth stuff. All right. So first off, with baseline logistics, Facebook and Instagram. I don't know if we haven't talked about this enough, but this is one of the things that we're very recruiting focused, and especially for new offices. If you have no AMs, this is how you're starting, and this is pretty much it. It used to be that we would go clipboarding every single day. We're still going to do campus stuff. We're still going to do clipboarding and all that. But, Facebook has just become so critical. When I look back at my branch summer, the first people that launched and sold knives in my office were all Facebook plus Kirsten. And I had 5 people in that first training seminar. 4 of them were Facebook in some way or another. Grant Strayer was a Facebook PR. And then, and by the way, all of them sold between $10,000 and $50,000. Every single one of them. And those were all just from Facebook. And then the following week after that, every single PR was from one of those guys. And I launched 15. And, that's kind of ridiculous for a branch back then. And launching 15 the second, or I think it was 3rd week of May, all of those are coming from Facebook. So, these are the things that just you need to have this in place in order to be able to start your summer. And no matter where you are personally, if your Facebook's not on point, it's going to be hard to start. Okay. Next thing is recruiting grit. There's a lot of other ways that you can recruit when you start off too. For me, my sister, she just turned 18. That means all of her friends are now eligible. So I'm stealing her phone first thing in the summer and calling every single one of them. And sorry, Jeff, some of them live in Fort Lauderdale, but they're probably gonna be in my office. But there's a certain grit that happens. Yeah, sorry, Joe. there's a certain grit to recruiting where, there's like the come hell high water, just what can you do to get recruits in the door that is beyond Facebook and Instagram, whether that be clipboarding, whether that be recruiting receptionists and then PRing them. But there's just certain little things that, meeting people in your territory and getting started now. I've met people out in bars in Boca that I already have their numbers ready to call them the first week that I'm open in the summer, and I know Mila has been talking to some people from Naples, just kind of open up the conversation now so that she's going to be able to leverage that when she gets to her territory then. But there's just a certain grit to recruiting that you have to have that, champions find a way. And this is one of those things that there's not a clear-cut path or clear-cut steps on how to do this. It's just one of those find your way things, and does anyone know what GRIT stands for? Stands for go recruit. And the IT just don't matter. It's just go recruit.
There you go.
And then just, there's IT.
Yes.
I don't know what it's for. Or go recruit it. We don't need to be gender specific. So go recruit it. Okay. So that's great. Have that recruiting grit. The next thing is your management checklist. Okay. So understand what your strengths are. Understand what your weaknesses are. Know what you need to work on. I would say for people that are just starting, if this is your first summer running an office and this is your first time in charge, I would say just make sure you run every function at least once before the summer. Get into an office and run every function once. You don't know what your strengths and weaknesses are right now. You might think you do, but if you asked me that when I was an AM, it would be completely different than what it is now. So I would say you guys focus on just getting everything in, knowing how to run everything, and focusing on the Focus 5, which I'll go over in just a second. If you're next level, I would say, this is the point where, the off season is kind of when you can work on some of your weaknesses. We're getting to the point where it's season and it's time to start working on your strengths, so I would, whatever your strengths are, if your strengths are, setting PRs, if your strengths are, planning, if your strengths are productivity, whatever it is, start diving in on your strengths. Because right now is about the time to make that shift from going from, working on your weaknesses and getting everything to a baseline level to really starting to hone in on your strengths if you're next level. Okay. Next thing is just the Focus 5. Okay, these are the Focus 5 where if you have these things down, my branch summer, I was nothing special. I look back, I barely even did PDI. I was terrible at it. I see all the potential that I could have had looking back on my branch summer. And these are the things that you have these down, you'll be good. And you can run, I'd say if you're a branch, you can run a 200K office if you got all these things down or more, So first thing is just Facebook, having Facebook, I don't need to touch on that again. Second thing is PR program, having a full understanding of how it works, having vindication in the PR program. I think it's really important that, we always talk about with Cutco, people will buy your belief and your conviction in Cutco. Your office will reflect your belief and your conviction in PRs. And I've seen so many offices that, the manager kind of maybe feels like it's weird asking kids for their friends and stuff. And that's just not going to work. You need to have that belief and conviction in the PR program, but also just have your processes down with the PR program and know every step of the way, know all the different types of PRs, know, what PPR to expect from different kinds of PPRs and things like that. And that's what'll take your planning to the next level, and I have my recruits number for my office. I know I'm aiming to recruit 140 people, but I have a PR plan set in place to be able to launch 165 PRs so that I have some leeway there. Because I know I might not always hit the number every single week. So I have a 25-person leeway in my PR plan, and I know exactly how many I need to set. I know how many names I need in order to set those. I know how many Kirsten's going to need to set, how many names she needs to set those. I know how many my PR callers are going to need to set, how many names they need. And then I take all the names from my launches and everything. I multiply by 200 per head, and the rest go into conveyor. And that's how I know exactly how many I can expect from conveyor. And it doesn't need to be that complicated. That's the type of stuff we'll be going over during kill meeting. But I would say if you find one of your strengths to be like analytics and recruiting, that's something that you probably should have together now to have a vision for it, to know exactly who you need to hire, how you need to hire, where your names are going to come from, and have those things down. So those are the kind of things that you can dive in on PR program. But in the end of the day, the most important thing to have down is just you need to be a badass PR caller, and you need to get into an office, and every PR call is a sale, and it's a skill. And, I think a lot of times, I think I'm guilty of this too, where we can get complacent with our PR calling and we say that we're good enough, but you can always be a better PR caller. And I think that's something to constantly be working on nowadays. Okay. Next thing is seminar basics. All right, here's I'm going to talk about procrastination a little bit, but this is the one where it's going to bite you in the butt because you're like, oh, I'll eventually do it. I'll eventually do it. I'll eventually do it. And the next thing you know, you're running a training seminar next week and you don't have the whole second day scripted and you have no clue what to do. So making sure, I would make sure you just have everything scripted and have a plan. Set deadlines for yourself. I mean, we already have deadlines set in place for anyone that's on, I guess it's all A players here, but there's already deadlines set in place. Make sure you're keeping up with those. And if you get behind, you got to make time to do double the next week. You can't stay behind as you go along. Otherwise, you're going to go run your first training seminar and you're going to realize you don't have certain parts scripted. And I'm guilty of this. My first branch summer is my first training class. I had 2 people in training and I hadn't really dove into the full training and not a single one of them sold a knife. Not a single one of them even did an appointment. And then the next week, I remember that whole week, I was up till 3, 4 a.m. every single night, just scripting training. And we always talk about the work ethic in place there and how I analyze every training, how much that benefited me. But I don't want you guys to have to stay up till 4 a.m. Do that now. Do that now. It's going to serve you a lot better. Okay. The next thing is first 10-day management. Just know the structure of everything. I would go back, look at the notes from Brian Herman's talk from year-end bank or from VCAs. I think that was just a great overview, a very simple overview of 10-day management. But have these systems in place. One thing I would do is, make your summer schedule. This is something we're also going to be going over at Kill Meeting, but with your summer schedule, not just your hour-to-hour schedule, but I would set aside a week that's kind of already been used in your planner that you can erase or have a template or something, and just write down what needs to get done each day for each of your kids that launches. And have a first 10-day management. Have literally all 10 days so you can visually see here's the conversation I'm supposed to have today. Here's the event I'm supposed to confirm them for today. Here's what I need to talk about when it comes to their goals on this day. And that way you can look at that each morning and exactly the conversations you need to have with all of your kids. And I think last summer we took a big step back from this because we tried to push WhatsApp too hard and we tried to be more passive with it. And, that was one of those pleasing methods, pleasing results thing. And I still believe that in the first 10 days, it should be our aim to talk to every single rep every single day. And that's only going to benefit them a lot more. So if you have your objectives down for each day, it's going to make that a lot simpler and a lot easier. Okay. Number 5 is event to event management. I gave a talk on this a while back, but these things, guys, these are the 5 things that if you can get into an office and you can really hone your skills between now and summer, are the things to be really focused on now. Okay. Next one is office search. Okay. Office search is not that complicated. It's hard, but it's not complicated. Yeah. And I put it down to 4 steps here. Okay. First, all you do is gather your virtual leads. All right. One thing I'm going to talk about later, though, is you don't need to have every single virtual lead in the world and not go on to the next step until you've gathered every single virtual lead. Okay. I would get to calling realtors about right now. That's in my plan for tomorrow afternoon. Is I'm going to be calling realtors a lot of tomorrow afternoon to set up meetings for throughout the week so I can go view spaces. And that's step 3. Okay. So you have virtual leads, call realtors, go see spaces, and then get your leads on. It's pretty much that simple. Sometimes you'll have some bumps in the road and whatnot, but I think sometimes we overcomplicate it. We see it as this really big thing. Just to go out and do something. When I say take action now, figure out which one of these 4 steps you're at and take action on that. That's one of the things that you should be doing right after this prep. Okay. Then the next thing for baseline logistics is proper planning. Proper planning. First thing with planning is know the events that we have and show up to those events the right way. Jeff always talks about going over, the agendas and everything beforehand. Make sure you're showing up to every event the right way, every event high energy, every event you're able to take away the most. I believe the next event we have is Kill Meeting. And guys, if there's ever a meeting that's going to be information overload, that's it. So you need to be prepared for it. You need to go in prepared for what you're going to take away. It's probably the hardest meeting to be a part of because there's so much information, but it's also the most helpful because it's all stuff that you'll need right before the summer. And it's going to feel like a lot. So if there's ever a meeting that you need to go in and review the agenda beforehand and really show up the right way, that is the single one that I highly suggest. And so just, plan ahead of time for that. Know that you need to do that and don't take that one lightly because it's, probably the most effective meeting that we run as a division. Okay. Next one is planning out your goals. Planning out your goals. Have realistic goals based on where you are now. Some of you are cranking personally. Some of you have all your logistics together, and those are the ones that should be setting really, really high goals. Some of you are not in a place to where you can set a 400K goal for your branch, and that's simple, but know where you are now and base your goals off those. Make them realistic now. Make them to the point where they require massive action. Make them to the point where you have to transform who you have to be in order to hit those goals, but there's still a baseline of being realistic with your goals and setting step-by-step plan to get there. And if your plan is, or if you're trying to run a 400K office or a 300K office and you're behind on your Facebook blasting, that's not congruent with your goals, and that's something that you need to plan for. And all these little steps along the way are ultimately little things that you need to plan for your ultimate goal. So to put that into perspective with your planning. Okay. Next is just do your assignments on time. This one is easy. I just had to throw it in here, but I know a lot of people aren't, but just get your assignments done on time. It's not that hard. Put it in the monthly section of your planner and look at it the week before. Don't do it the night before. It's pretty simple. Okay. And then the other thing that a lot of people forget about is finances. All right, finances. Here's what I'll say about finance. First of all, make sure you have enough money. I've been selling a lot to try and put myself in a good place. But one thing I would go through and plan out is, we've set the branch pay model a few times. I would go through and see what things are charged to the company or charged to your account and what things are coming out of your pocket. And that's how you'll know exactly how much money you'll need to get started, because some things are just going to be charged to your account, or they're charged in June, they're charged at the end of the summer. Those are things you don't have to be worrying about that much right now. But some things that come out of your pocket, just things that come to my mind, your office lease, that's not something that you're throwing on a credit card. That's not something that, you can charge to the company account. That's something that comes out of your pocket, right? Your internet, that's something that comes out of your pocket. There's all these little things that would just run through there when it says the expense thing. We look at those expense things and sometimes we just throw them away because they're not quite accurate. But go through and kind of circle the ones that will need to come out of your checking account, instead of just seeing this big sheet of expenses and not knowing what to think of it, and just seeing it on a macro level. Really dive in, see what's coming out of your checking account, what's being charged to your account. Okay, that way you'll know exactly what you need to get started for your office for the summer. Okay. So that's that for baseline logistics. Anything you would add, Jeff, to this?
I mean, he hits it all. I don't
know if your sound's on.
There we go. Okay, cool. I was worried the broadcast wasn't recording. It was recording. Can you take your share screen off for a second?
Yeah.
Por favor.
Yeah, it's got my mouse for some reason.
There you go.
I'm just guessing where it is.
So I have a couple of thoughts. There we go. I have a couple of thoughts. I think from a logistical standpoint, missing assignments now hurts more than ever. Like missing, and not as much the productivity stuff. And believe it or not, I'm actually still missing assignments from some of you right now. But I want to be upfront and letting you guys know what I've taken the approach on right now is I'm putting less energy into really meticulous, like painstakingly meticulous follow-up to address stuff. And I'm going to start hovering more towards that 60% middle group and 20% higher group. Right. So here's what's going to happen. Can you guys hear me, by the way? Everyone can hear me? Yeah. I am going to put more energy into making sure the fires that are lit just get gasoline on them, versus some of you bozos who are kind of behind, or there's like half of you that know you're on that low 20% in my mind, and there's some of you that don't even know it. But I'm just going to put less energy into trying to pull that group up, because at this point the ship for me has sailed since last week, and it just holds for the greater good kind of deal. So with that as the theme, I think office searching, making sure that is set up properly, and you understand. Like, we had a couple of branch managers that went out there. I had a district manager reach out to me, and I wasn't offended, but it could have been taken offensive for me, and essentially asked me, how come I didn't cover office searching with the branches? He said, well, I got a branch who went to their territory and they don't know what the blank is going on. And they told me what they were doing. And it's like, well, did we cover this? Did we cover this? And I knew where he was coming from. And I said, well, actually, and I forwarded what we covered and when we covered it and all the documents. And I said, oh yeah, the script. Yeah, this is the script. And then, yeah, we covered this. And he said, oh, so this just must be the branches again, not like hearing it or paying attention. I said, yep. I said, and we know where that's going to end up. So if you can just avoid being that, and it's really easy to sweep it under the rug, but here's what happens. The dirt comes up at some point and it's nasty under the carpet. Like, it's really nasty on the carpet. And here's what also comes up, how expensive that dirt is for all of you. You know, what's the best case scenario? You kind of maneuver through it and you get a wake up call and you get prepared for round 2 the right way. What's the worst case scenario? Several thousands of dollars in debt. You leave the company, you leave with your tail tucked between your legs, feel embarrassed, and then you lose all these great networks and circles of influence, and people talk about you. I don't want to say that, but people will talk about you, and you will turn into a verb. You'll turn into a verb. You will turn into a verb. Don't be a verb. Ready? Oh yeah. Don't Maseko. Don't pull a Luke. Don't Luke your summer. You know what? There have been past people who are now verbs in our division, and some of you are laughing, and you are on pace to being a verb right now. It's like 5 of you I'm looking at. I'm like, man, you guys are you're like verb track. Can we say that? You're on that verb track. So don't be on the verb track. And some of you, and there are a couple of you looking at me like, oh my gosh, and I want to say you're fine. Like there are a couple of you looking at me like, you'll get on pace. All I'm saying is this is like my last hurrah to give it to you and give it to you real. Right? It really is, because March, when we get to kill meeting, we're going to roll, and I'm going to go. And if it's over some of your heads, then that's not my fault. And you're signed up. And that's what it is. There's a commitment here. And it's hard, right? And you should want to think about quitting. That's how hard it should be. But when you're mailing it in, you can't wake up on time. You guys making poor decisions and getting screwed up the night before. But you have a prep. When you're not paying attention, you're on your computer doing opening comments. And then when a manager tries to address something with you, you roll your eyes like an asshole. Right? You walk in, oh, I'm late, and not a big deal. But you know, the standard is high here. And you know, it's funny. It's not funny. What's not funny is that if you don't change, not only will you won't be a part of it, but man, it's just like, this is a place to support and help you grow. So, and there are a couple of you that are like just so on point, and we're going to move forward from there. So everything Luke is saying, it's all, in fact, everything's repeated. Like everything Luke has said has been said before in multiple preps, multiple A squad calls. But what's the difference between the people at the end of the summer who feel good about their summer like Luke does after his branch, or Andrew, or Eric, or Amanda, right? And Amanda didn't even have the highest results CPO-wise, but she felt good because she recruited and she gave her best. In fact, she moved, right? That was a great job, Amanda. Like there are all these great examples, and don't be on that verb track tip. Seriously, this is Luke's talk was my attempt to let the older brother say the same thing Dad's saying. That was really what it is. So in fact, I said a prayer for some of you today when I woke up and did my thing. I said a prayer, like, I hope, please. But every year, every business, you have to have a 10-80-10 or 20-60-20. So inevitably there'll be a low 20%, and that's okay. But my goal is that 20% comes back strong, and we mitigate that. We don't need a low 40%. Anyway, that's my dad thought for the day. Yeah. Back at it. Questions, comments? Okay. How about 30 seconds on? He got Mo.
Oh, I got more.
You got Mo. My bad.
I haven't got to the first.
Let me.
You guys hear me? Trent, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me.
I don't know. Trent might not hear anything right now.
All right. So that's the baseline logistics. I want to touch on personal growth and productivity stuff for a little bit. Okay. I think we're all so focused on having these big breakthroughs with our personal growth when really all we need is small shifts in our habits. Okay. And, I would just analyze your habits right now. If you have bad habits, choose habits to replace those habits. It's very hard to just stop a habit. It's much easier to just replace it, and replace it with something positive. Don't resist it, redirect it. Okay. And focus on just very small wins with those things that builds confidence. Okay. Jeff talks about golf a lot. And, when you're driving the ball, there's a small bit of like your hip rotation or shoulder rotation, like one little thing where dropping your shoulder could be the difference between a ball going all the way to the fairway on the other course or straight down the middle 300-yard drive. And I think we're all so focused on, having massive breakthroughs when really all we got to do is drop our shoulder, and it's going to make a really big difference. So tiny shifts in your habits. Here's what I talked about with Jeff. When it comes to personal growth, here's really what you need to have down before the summer, and when I talk about massive personal growth, oftentimes we over exaggerate, and this is all that it takes. Okay. Number 1, start waking up early. It's not that hard. All right. If you need to know how to wake up early, read Miracle Morning. It's awesome. It taught me how to wake up early. I was awful at this. Last semester, I was terrible at this. In the fall, I was literally waking up like 10 or 11 each day. I hated myself for it. I read Miracle Morning. It's been a game changer. Okay. Makes things really easy. Replace Netflix with growth books or podcasts. Okay, what are you feeding your mind? Now, you don't have to completely replace Netflix. It doesn't mean you can never watch a show again. Okay, but what that means is whatever like your vice is, whatever is taking up most of your time right now, just replace it with either books or podcasts or something that feeds your mind positive content that's going to make you better. Okay. Number 3, work out and eat healthy. We take our energy for granted. All right. And, the summers that I've had the most energy are the summers when I've been most successful. And, when you're getting on point with your energy, whoever has the most energy is going to influence everything, so get your energy on point, no matter what it is, whether it's problem solving. If shit hits the fan in your branch, that's going to be a lot easier to solve when you have energy than if you have no energy. But when you need to recruit a ton of people, it's going to be a lot easier to do with energy than no energy, so work out, eat healthy, really not that hard. Okay. Then number 4, just plan and track your habits. Get your small shifts in habits on points, like I was saying before, will get your whole life on point. Okay. I want to talk about mostly productivity habits. Okay. And this is something that I heard at 10X GrowthCon. That was one of the big things that stuck with me. But in everything that you do, anytime you have a decision ahead of you, remember tomorrow. And what that means is, if you have 2 choices in front of you, think, if I'm looking back on this tomorrow, which choice am I going to wish I had? And we are so focused on, reward now versus later, or, a little bit of free time now instead of putting in the work and reaping the reward later, that I think this concept can just change a lot of things. And I think I'm going to get a bracelet that says this for the summer, that just says, remember tomorrow. That way, every time I have some sort of choice to either do something or not, I can always think, remember tomorrow. And that's something that's kept me on point that I just heard at 10X GrowthCon that I think I'd share with you guys. Okay. Next thing with personal growth. Ongoing processes versus checklists. This is something that I mentioned on a call before that's really changed a lot of things for me. But when you have like a massive to-do list for your office, my to-do list for my office right now is overwhelming. It's huge. There's so much stuff to do, okay? But I separate it into ongoing processes and checklist processes. And what that means are, what are the things that it's not like you can just go do it and get it done? It takes an ongoing process. It takes something that I have to put on my schedule every single week, okay? The most notable one of these is Facebook blasting. This is something that you can't just do it. It's an ongoing process. Whereas checklist is office searching. It's like, did I get my virtual leads? Check. Did I call the realtor? Check. Have I toured, different sites? Check. Okay. And those that way you can divide into it. And if you want to take it a step further, the 4 quadrants for planning, the important, urgent, not important, not urgent. I do that with both ongoing processes and with checklist processes. And that pretty much gives me my to-do list for the day of knowing what I have to do. Okay. And then the biggest thing I want to talk about that I think is plaguing a lot of people right now is just procrastination. And I think procrastination plagues our whole generation in general. And I heard this on an Ed Milet podcast, but it was the most successful people in the world. They're just the ones that don't procrastinate. And welcome to the 21st century. That's how it works. And here's how you don't procrastinate. In a nutshell, do something, right? If you do something, just anything, no matter what it is, no matter how big the action, no matter how small, just doing something gives you that little bit of confidence to be able to go do the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. Just go out and do something. Okay. And that's why at the beginning of the talk, I wanted to write at the top of your paper, take action now, right? Because that way you go out after this talk and you just do something, right? And I legitimately think procrastination is pretty much the biggest thing that's plaguing our generation as a whole. Okay. I'm going to go over the causes of procrastination. It'll be the last part of my talk. This part is fire. All right. I read it in a book and kind of put my own spin on it and stuff, but don't use it. Don't steal it, because I want to throw it on an Instagram video or something later. Follow me on Instagram, Luke Conseco. Okay.
There you go.
So there's 6 causes of procrastination, and I'm going to give you ways to deal with them too.
Nice.
All right. First one is not coming up.
Nice. Why would it?
It never comes up.
Good.
Not coming up. Good. All right, I'll just give them to you. It's not working.
Good.
Number 1, the task is unpleasant. Okay. An example of this is going to get like a colonoscopy exam. It sucks, right? No one does it, but it's something that needs to be done.
40 plus 45 years old.
Yeah, you're 45 years old. So keep this in your notes for when you turn 45. Another thing is reading the bill that comes in the mail. Jeff got 5 years, by the way. 5 years. All right. Another thing is reading a bill that comes in the mail. Sometimes people don't open it and they just sweep it under the pile. Why? It doesn't make any rational sense to do that, right? The bill is still going to be there, but it's just because our brain is like, oh, like negativity, no, right? So the task is unpleasant. The solution for a task being unpleasant is divide and conquer. Okay? Complete small intermediary tasks. This goes back to just do something, right? Do something to get you rolling on it, and that's how you can overcome the unpleasant tasks. Second one, and this is the one that's probably most applicable to us for especially Facebook blasting. Easily available alternatives. All right. I think it's really easy to get caught in this one, especially when you are being very productive, to convince yourself you're being productive by doing things you don't really need to do. And for me, I've been guilty of this where instead of Facebook blasting, I can go read a book. And I tell myself I'm being productive because I'm reading a book, but really I'm not getting the stuff done that I need to get done, even though I'm growing, right? And this is kind of what we mean when personal growth has its seasons, and right now is logistics season with personal growth on top. It's not necessarily personal growth season and then get your logistics done after. Right. So second one is easily available alternatives. Right. We convince ourselves that we're being productive when we do certain things when we really should be doing other things or procrastinating on it. Way to overcome this one is set miniature benchmarks for yourself and try to limit or get rid of easily available alternatives. Set up if then thens. Right. So if I go on the internet or if I go on social media, then first I need to Facebook blast and I need to get out 50. Right. How about I can't go on social media for the day until I get out my 50? Or, just set up little if then thens and set up, kind of conditions for yourself in order to do things and attach the unpleasant things to the things that you like. And that will help you overcome these ones. Okay. The third one is there's a time gap between task and reward. A time gap between task and reward. And this one's also Facebook, right? This is also like when people try to quit smoking, right? They don't see the benefits of stopping smoking immediately. It's way down the road, but they just have to give up their habit now, if there's a large time gap between what you're doing and the reward that you get. And this is kind of, if you've heard of the marshmallow experiment, the instant gratification experiment, this is the one that I think plagues a lot of people so much. This is the reason people don't save their money, because they would rather spend it now than get the reward of having more later, okay? The solution to this one, make long-term goals feel more within reach, so you can adjust your expectations. Okay, Ed Milet talks about this, where the most successful people don't necessarily have way bigger goals or way more massive goals. It's all about the proximity to their goals. If you're going to go run a mile, you're going to pace yourself very differently than if you're going to run a 100-yard dash. They're very successful people. All of their goals look like a 100-yard dash, and they're gunning to them, and they're putting together full speed action going 100% at all times, as opposed to someone that sees their goals a mile away. They're going to pace themselves like their goals a mile away. They're like, oh, since Facebook blasting doesn't really materialize till the summer, I can just do most of it around that time, when really it's a process that takes the whole, the whole spring. Okay. Just treat your goals like you're on the verge of success at all times. Okay. Set up constant reminders for yourself. Kirsten and I text each other literally every single morning. Text me when you get your 50. Text me when you get your, and she's starting to text me now. It's great. It's like, hey, did you do your 50? And we literally have to text each other every day. Just set up constant reminders throughout the day that keep you on task with it, and visualize the reward every time you do it. Think about, while you're Facebook blasting, think about how awesome it's going to be to have those recruits in your office. I love clicking on the profile pictures of some of the sharpest kids and thinking like, damn, that kid's going to be in my office. That's awesome. And start visualizing it. It makes it a lot more enjoyable, I promise. Okay. The fourth one is fear of failure, right? Avoiding failure often exceeds our motivation to achieve success. And I think that's a kind of a deep one where, a lot of us mentally check out. It's really easy for us to have really big goals, but we subconsciously sabotage ourselves because of this notion in our mind that it's like, if I did try harder, I would be able to do it. And so much of the time our goals are more for self-vindication than they are for actually achieving success, and we're worried about failure because it reflects on us as a person. But really what failure is it's a result of what we've done. It's not a result of who we are, and when you can reframe that in your mind and not think of failure as a measuring stick, it's more of an opportunity to learn. You're not going to learn from your failures if you didn't go all out. If you didn't go all out, you're just going to tell yourself, oh, well, my solution is I just need to go all out next time. And the next time you don't go all out because you tell yourself, oh, I have the capacity to do it. I have the potential to do it. But you don't end up actually doing it because you always think you have this potential that you don't reach. The only way to really learn from your failures is to go all out with it. All right. So consciously tell yourself that failure is not a result of who you are. It's a result of what you've done. Okay. Moving ahead here. Number 5, This is one of my favorites that I'm very guilty of. Excitement of a looming deadline. Okay, if you want something done, give it to someone with not enough time to do it. Right? I'm very guilty of this one. Okay, pressure and urgency forces action. Right, and this will cripple you with long-term goals. All right, you don't procrastinate on daily and weekly tasks nearly as much as you do on your monthly and yearly tasks. You know, if a teacher gives you a project months out, those are the ones you procrastinate on. You don't procrastinate as much on the weekly homeworks, and you might. You know, but those are just kind of easier to accomplish because you know they take a week to get done. They don't take a month to get done, right? But when you have this looming deadline and you don't focus, if you take a month-long task and you try to fit that into a day, that's when you get screwed. You know, it's not when you take the daily task and then end up just fitting it into the last day. You can do that, you know. But if you take something that's a very long-term goal, you need to space it out, okay? You need to be able to, this is where that ongoing processes versus checklist routine will work very well with you, okay? And you can set up deadlines for yourself that are sooner than incoming deadlines. But when you have a looming deadline, it literally releases dopamine in your brain that makes you like more excited to complete it, which is why you complete it, but it also clouds your vision and crowds your rationale, and it makes your work not as good, okay? So that's one thing to be wary of. The sixth thing, information overload. Okay, this is why I had you write "take action now" at the top, right? It's often called complexity paralysis, right? Sometimes we put off tasks because we want to plan for it to be perfect. Another great thing I heard at 10X GrowthCon is perfection is the enemy of time, and time is money. Therefore, perfection is the enemy of money. Perfection is the enemy of time, and time is money. Therefore, perfection is the enemy of money. A lot of us will put things off until it's absolutely perfect. And I caught myself doing this, you know, with social media stuff, with Instagram stuff. Is I just started taking like a social media marketing course, and I was thinking like, you know what? I want to get Facebook blasting and Instagram blasting and stuff like that, and really generating a following after I watch this course. But why would I do that? Start driving action now, and then course correct along the way.
Yep. Okay.
So that's what happens with information overload. I think sometimes we hear some of the best talks in all of vector history, and we don't do anything with it because of how good it was. You know, we sit on the information like, wow, I got so much value. Okay. This is like putting off calling realtors for your office search because you're so focused on getting all the best virtual leads, or not Facebook blasting because you need to tweak one little thing on your profile that's not perfect. All right. Just go out and do something. Even if it's not perfect, just doing something will drive action and help you achieve small results that build the confidence to help you do it along the way. Okay. So those are the causes of procrastination. Like I said, use it. Don't steal it, because I'm going to try to post on Instagram soon.
Nice.
So guys, just become predicted to productivity and action. Another thing that I really like that's helped me a lot with just productivity habits is analyzing and adjusting. Analyze and adjust. And my slides are broken, so I can't really go over this. Oh, there we go. Analyze and adjust. Right, the average people analyze and adjust every year. It's called New Year's resolutions. Right, some people will do it every month. They'll look back on the month and see how they did and analyze and adjust. The best or the good people, they do it every week. Every week they're analyzing and adjusting. Then the great people will do it every day. They'll have like an evening routine where they reflect on their day. But what I've started doing is the shorter you can make that time gap where you're analyzing and adjusting every single day, the better you're going to be. So I have an alarm on my phone every 2 hours that says analyze and adjust. And every 2 hours of the day, I look at it and I'm like, did the last 2 hours serve me, or did they cripple me towards my goals? Did they help me, or were they not good towards my goals? Did they hold me back? Right. And this has just kept me productive at all times. And yes, I'll still have times where, you know, I'm hanging out with my family for 4 hours and that alarm will go off. And you know what? I consider hanging out with my family for a bit to be some form of personal development, you know, but I have that reminder constantly. And one of the greatest things that's happened to me is I've become addicted to productivity, you know, and I'm training like an Olympic athlete. And, you know, athletes are starting to train more like businessmen, and businessmen are starting to train more like athletes. And we have to think that way. And I've always had this drive that I just want to be better than our generation. And I think one of the biggest things is thinking like there's someone out there doing something now to get ahead. So what is it that you can do, right? And what is it that the past 2 hours, what is it that you've done? And maybe it doesn't need to be 2 hours for you. Maybe you need to do it every, 6 hours, 7 hours, something like that. But another concept that Ed Miletus talked about is trying to fit 3 days work into every single day. My first day is from 6 a.m. to 12. Then my second day is from 12 to 6. And then my last day is from 6 to midnight. And then I sleep from midnight to 6. That's my schedule every single day. And I just think of each of those as a day. And I need to get a day's worth of work done in every single one of them. And you analyze and adjust every time you cross one of those barriers. Okay. Giovanni has told me about revenue producing opportunities. Right. Mila's talked about this too, where How much of your time during the day is spent on revenue producing opportunities? RPO, run past option. Just kidding. Revenue producing opportunities. What is it that you're really doing to drive your business forward and maximize your potential every single day? Okay. I genuinely feel terrible when I wake up 2 hours later than I have to. And 2 hours later than I have to is 8 a.m. If I'm waking up at 8 a.m., I feel like my day is just completely thrown off. And you don't have to be waking up. I know you guys are in college. You're not waking up at 5 a.m. every day. But what is your version of that you make it unacceptable for yourself? You know? Then the very last thing, guys, is button up your circles of influence. All of my most powerful summers have been because I've consistently been talking with powerful people. You know, and funny stories. I always post the sunrise picture on my Instagram every morning. And this morning I was thinking, you know, I got to button up this talk. I might just stay in today. And I looked at Instagram and I saw Andrew's, and he had posted one of the coolest sunrise pics I've ever seen. And I was like, damn, now I got to go out there. And I went out there, and it turned out to be the best sunrise of the entire year. It's pretty sweet. It just happened to be that way. But, you know, just little things like that where you know, I see Andrew do it. It's like, shit, now I got to do it, you know. Christina and I have become very close lately because I knew she had a health goal of you know, certain like health goal that I also had that, you know, we kind of collaborated on it. We hold each other accountable now. Now we send each other selfies every day that we go to the gym to hold each other accountable, you know. And Mila and I do the same thing with growth and books, and we talk about what we're reading and send each other takeaways on certain things. So find like your accountability partners, find the people that you're going to be that have similar goals to you as you do this summer, and figure out what you can do to collaborate and hold yourself accountable. Okay. So guys, I don't want this to be information overload, but no matter what, take action now. Select a few things that you took away from this talk and take action now. That's it.
Good. Luke, thank you. We give snaps for Luke. That was good. I think the paint from the walls have caught on fire. No,
I'm on fire.
Yeah. Here's what I do know. Anytime someone gives a message like that, and I'll try to be unbiased, right? It's hard to be biased when it's your crew, right? When you look at a message like that, you can say one of three things. Yeah, man, that's my guy, and I'm on that same page. Like, I feel you. I'm on that tip. And you get the complete opposite, and you get people like rolling their eyes, like, oh, Luke's. However, if half of you, oh, sorry. I was muted.
Oh,
ready?
That's great.
When Luke gives a message like that, and anyone gives a message like that, there are three different camps. There's the I'm on that tip, I'm with you, I'm glad you're in my circle. There's the opposite, like the oh, there goes Luke, okay? And then there's all in between. If I can get half of you, not all of you, because all of you won't. I bet my career all of you won't. But if I get half of you to get half of his excitement, half of his focus, then we're going to have the most breakthrough summer ever. Because it's moments like that of where you just get possessed with greatness, you know, get pissed off for greatness. There's so many different ways you can say it. And man, it's contagious. I am motivated. I'm already up early, but I'm motivated. I'm motivated knowing that Luke gets to the gym and I hear that and I go, oh, this is good. So when I want to mail it in and just watch Golf Channel and maybe I'll just double up my workout the next day. That's a good one, right? You ever do that? I'll just work out harder the next day. I'll just get in for a quick 9-minute circuit. It's better than what I was going to do. And you feel so much better when you made the decision. So group for thought. Take 30 seconds, 60 seconds, biggest takeaways. But more importantly for this one, and we're not going to share it, what are some action steps? No, that was a great picture. You killed it.
No neck.
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
Okay. And for those of you that are running hubs, if you haven't already ordered the food, because we're doing a working launch, make sure you order the food here. Looking at you guys check this out here. It's pretty funny. House of Salads?
Yeah, House of Salads.
Yeah, just pick one and everyone order one. Another 30 seconds.
So hard to choose.
Great to see everyone. Christina, you look great. See?
I don't care what everyone
Thank-
says. You look fantastic.
Thanks, Hefe. Thank you, Hefe. Okay. We don't have to, but would anyone like to share on this one? And then we're going to roll into receptionist, and then we'll be at lunch. Anyone else? Reception? Takeaway, light bulb, bombio?
I mean, just the 6 causes of procrastination. Like, that's mind blowing.
Okay.
Just like actually.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna hang that on my wall. By the way,
Yeah.
like it's been a
So
game
good.
changer.
I like it. Mila, you're about to chime in. Oh, hold on.
What's the sound?
Go ahead.
I'm not even hungry, thank you.
Analyzing and adjusting, not monthly, weekly, or even daily, but throughout the day. I hadn't thought about that.
Okay, good. Anyone else? A couple more? No? Okay.
For me, it was great. Get recruiting it.
Go recruit it.
Can someone hit mute here? Everyone muted? Okay, there you go. Okay, let's do this. Let's take a quick, just 90-second to 2-minute. Let's get all the receptionist documents up and get recharged and refreshed, and then we're gonna go strong into the lunch break. Okay, so and then just take 2 minutes to just pull up all the handouts, take a quick gander, if you will. Did you already pick one?
No,
No, you're not hungry.
thank you.
I'm not hungry.
Fine.
It's
I'm not hungry. Look at me.
weird for me. You think it's better to go to the gym in the morning or the afternoon?
Well, it's better in the morning, but just do it.
It doesn't. Yeah, I know.
It's better
I
for
go
you in the
like
morning,
5
though. It
times
gets
a
your
week.
metabolism
But
going.
that's what I was thinking, but I don't know.
It definitely does. And your just like your hormone levels are.
What's
higher
the sign in the
morning,
front
so you have
say?
More energy.
What's the
I can,
sign?
like-
Florida Caribbean Division?
Yeah.
Fat burning mode all day, so like everything you do.
Into.
If only I could have sold something. There it goes. It's better than most of the 10x talks. So if only I could have sold something.
I want to speak at 10x. That'd be fun. Not that I've got that. What do you call it? I don't have that. I'm not Steve Harvey. Is that right? Okay. Folks, let's go to reception, shall we? You want to pull up all the documents? Let me give you a sense of what's going on here. If you guys have, I'll share a screen so it's easier. So if you take a look at the agenda. Okay. So over here, I just want to give you kind of a benchmark. When you think about how we're learning the receptionist program, the most important thing I can tell you is if you just shorten the gaps, like don't think about how do I recruit for the summer, think about how do I recruit till SC1. And I know we say that to the reps, but it really is for a manager. Can I get everything done by SC1? Can I hit every goal that I'm supposed to? Can I crush that by SC1? And so since we're taking that stance, if you look here at the hiring, we're going to cover hiring right now. And then training will be covered at the March Kill meeting, March 15th weekend. Then the region kickoff in Jacksonville will cover management. Then there'll be some group training sessions. So I'll be hiring the services of Miss Sam Latrico from last year, and Sam's going to help. I'm contracting her as the best hit woman for hire. She's one of the best receptionist trainers in the region, and she'll be running a couple of workshops. Here's what we have on tap, so you have an idea. And for those of you that never run a receptionist program, this might not be as exciting until you understand. But she's going to have, number one, open office hours on Saturday. So anytime that people need help or questions and we can't answer it or I'm not on the grid, if you have like a brand new caller you need to get trained, if you're having a hard time with your show, she's going to be available for a couple hours every morning on Saturday while you're doing PDI, before you send the conveyor, so she can help troubleshoot. Okay. Number two, she's going to be able to give me the stats really quick on Sunday night so we can address people that are behind right away, which is not different for you guys, but it makes it faster for me. Number three, she's going to help at our March Kill meeting. She's going to attend our March Kill meeting and going to go through receptionist training. Actually, a couple of things, receptionist training and management. And then at the end of April, And at the end of May, or once in April or once in May, we're going to run not one, but two. Normally we run one. We're going to run two divisional receptionist training sessions. What that means is, let's say, I'm just going to use a date. Let's say April 15th. That's not the date, but let's say April 15th. It's tax day. Let's say that's our divisional April receptionist meeting. Every branch in every district is going to hustle from now until that meeting to get as many of their total receptionists hired. And whatever amount you have hired by then, you send to that meeting. Okay, so you'll send them to the pilot. It'll be hubs like SLDM. So there'll be pilot, there'll be a West Coast, there'll be a Gulf, there'll be a Puerto Rico, there'll be different hubs. You send them to that meeting, and we will get a mass training for receptionists to help those of you, especially if you're a newer manager, have never done it before. And then we're going to do another one in May, right before Mega Gold period hits, or we call it Platinum period, right? Because Platinum's higher worth than Gold. Okay. So with that being said, you want to hustle and get as many of those receptionists hired between now and then. So I'll stop there. Any questions on receptionists for that? So I want to go through, pull out your notes on the Beth video debrief. Okay. I'm not going to ask you to resubmit. I'm not going to reach out to those of you that still haven't submitted yet. Yes, there are people who still have not submitted their Beth debrief, and that's fine. I'm going to do a lot less. The only thing I'm going to continue to follow up on is Facebook friending, because no matter how terrible you have been in your preparation, if you have people that Facebook blast, you at least have a shot in hell. You at least have a shot in hell. But I'm going to put less time into following up on assignments, because like John said, and I feel really good about it, it's ultimately up to them for them to see their own success beyond a certain point. Okay, cool. Here we go. So if you could open up the document that looky like this, Receptionist 101. Okay, and you can put that side by side with your notes from Beth's message. So this is the handout that she went through. Okay, and if you notice, so she did an all-encompassing everything you need to know about receptionist talk. And look, how many pages is it? It's 2. So everything you need to know. And just to give you the background on this, and this is why I love our receptionist program, which we're just essentially not unveiling, we're just reopening, if you will. It's because I said, Beth, we had this receptionist manual, and there were probably 62 pages in this receptionist manual. And I said, Beth, for every message, for every program, I want 1 or 2 pages max. So we took like a 64-page receptionist training manual, which was awesome. And some of you still may remember parts of it. Vargas, you probably remember parts of it. And those of you that have been around. But we condensed it, and it ended up being a region manual. And I think it was 12 to 15 pages, not including the scripts. Scripts don't count. So I think what I'd like to do is go through this, and what makes sense for me, and we do this on Zoom at the DVM, we'll be doing this on Zoom at the DVM level, is I would take notes separately that you can match up to this. Now, I'm not all fancy, and I don't know how to do all the sticky notes on the PDF file, but I would take notes separately on this and be able to pull them back up as you start to go back into your receptionist program. So let me go here. So start with receptionist. I'll give you 20 seconds to pull it up. And I would definitely not use the screen and follow along with me. You can have it, but make sure you have your version up so you can read it a lot closer. I'll give you 30 seconds. Okay. So the first one is that the physics of the job are self-explanatory. It's a receptionist position. And you might say, well, it's not really a receptionist position. It's a PR caller. It's a recruiter. You're right, but you won't get as big of a pool of candidates unless you use the word receptionist. Is that a light bulb for some of you? Like saying receptionist in an ad, whatever ad it is going to get better. You want a bigger pool of candidates. I'd rather have more people say, oh, that's not the job I really thought it was. I thought it was just a sit down like receptionist. Because part of our training is I do a whole 20-minute spiel on you're not just a receptionist. Okay, go ahead. Number 2. Consider the thought of what the job is for a receptionist. Imagine if I told you to make phone calls, PR calls. And some of you have done this, but you have to do it for 7 hours a day, 3 days in a row for 21 hours. That's a rough job. Okay, so think of how difficult that job is, and it's not just a receptionist. So how much energy and effort needs to go into training and preparing and finding the right people for that job. Number 3. The receptionists are the best first impression. So you may know this funnel, and Luke's part of the task force. The more human it is, the more experienced the human, the better the show to interview. Luke, what does that mean? What do I mean? Like go from conveyor up. What does that mean?
the more automated processes tend to be less show.
Yeah, so DVM making calls down to DM, to branch, to assistant, to new rep, intern, to conveyor, where it's like a text center. It gets less and less efficient. So, and why is that? Because there's more confidence and because there's more connection, ability to handle objections. So when you're hiring a receptionist, they're the first impression of the company. And nowadays, we're getting a lot less incoming. Like mailers are going to conveyor, and it's just a way different business. But here's what I do know. Depending on who answers or makes your peer calls will determine the type of people that come into your office. In 2017, and Josie was part of that, Mila was part of that, Erica was a rep there, Giovanni was a rep at that summer, Luke was running his first PSM summer, not as experienced in personal growth and in shape and ripped abs like now, like that, or those big bulging bowling ball shoulders. But how did we create so much more booming business? It's because we had awesome people coming through the door. Right? That the small sample size of Erica and Mila and Josie and all those people I'm saying, that's just a small sample size of these great people. I'm not even listing the great people that just didn't make it to TLA, but were really great. Like the Malloy McGreevy's of the world, who were great. It just, did for whatever reason, weren't part of the funnel. And I think backwards of the receptionists that were making calls that summer. I'll be honest, I don't remember half their names because I wasn't involved in the process. But I remember the people they were bringing in. I remember we had those two girls. They were both sorority girls from Boca, and they brought in and they gave this. Yeah, I'll submit friends, and it just gave us. We were already whooping the company's butt, and they gave like another round of PRs that just took us to this whole new level. And it was from receptionists. So here's a side note: who you hire as receptionists are also going to fuel another pile of PRs for you, because we're going to in training give them the PR talk. Okay. Beth talks about the cookie recipe, and just don't innovate too much. I'm going to forget the story. Just don't innovate too much. Okay. We have a great recipe here, and the recipe works. Also, take a look at this funnel, which I know is foreign to some of you because we're just so removed, but think about how much it takes to get to a Cutco sales rep, from the advertising to you have to get blank people scheduled, probably 85, 90. You can take these numbers down, right? So of all the advertisements, depending on the advertisement, we probably want an 80+% scheduled. Okay. For show, we want, I don't know, what would you say acceptable for the lowest possible PR show? 30? 30, okay. So we want 30% on the low end for PR, all the way up to a 55%, I would say, if you're calling, like doing a 5-star, one-on-one. Even sometimes 60%. All the way up to sometimes you get a 75. Vargas, you've seen this before. You get a 75% show from an interview. You sign 10 people and 7 from that interview show to the training because it's the next day. But 30 to 50 plus. And then you have the training show, which across the board is no less than 40. Like 40 is the, okay, if I'm not getting 40% to show, if 20 are set and 8 aren't in, there's an issue, all the way up to David just had 7 out of 11 show, which is a 67, sorry. Carry the Niner 6'5" Cortex. What is it?
Cortex.
Did you just pull that out of your butt?
No, it was.
No,
I had to do
64%.
64, David. Come
My
on.
bad.
Nice job.
Sorry.
Okay. Training launch percentage. That percentage has to be a minimum of 75%. Like if I have 10 people in day 1, I can't launch 5. If I have 5 in day 1, I've got to launch 4, and so forth.
70%.
70%, 75%. So you've got to understand how much it takes. It takes so much to get to a Cutco rep. Okay. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. And so key to a great receptionist is who they are and how they carry themselves. If they're literate, I'm not even joking, like literacy, the ability to follow a script, tone, confidence. Are they a gabber? When I got Beth Shishmanian years ago in 2002, believe it or not, I just knew she was going to be a great receptionist because she didn't stop talking. But it was eloquent, and she had good diction, and you understood what she was trying to say. So here are the big 5 right now. When you look for a good receptionist, it's speed, clarity, voice inflection, volume, and enthusiasm. And don't compromise on any of them. If I have someone who's got good tone and good speed with what they say, clarity, not clarity in the just to see what they're there. Voice inflection, when they're really excited, you definitely want to come in. Oh, really? You've got what going on? volume. But if you get all 4 of those, but they're not enthusiastic, that's still not a good receptionist. You need all 5. But, and I think Luke may have said, I forget who said this, I apologize. You have to staff and upgrade too. Like, don't be so, and you said this in a different way in your message. Don't be so selective, get the perfect receptionist that you don't have a receptionist. Okay? A terrible percentage show from a terrible receptionist is better than no one set from no receptionist. Okay? Incoming versus outgoing does not apply to our company anymore. And I want to quickly go through the 5 basics of the receptionist position. What the hell was that? David, okay. Ready? 5 basics of the receptionist position. Can they follow the approach word for word? Or do they like to make up their own thing right away, even from the role play in the interview? I've seen that. Like right from the interview, they just start to manipulate words, or they don't have great literacy. Okay. And what it does, it talks about, it gives either too much or too little information. Okay. Two, rather. Effective building rapport skills. Can they build rapport? They say you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Absolutely. And I think about people that are connected. I had a manager the other day say, I'm not really into sports. Well, if I'm a recruiting manager, I would get into sports. Yeah, because that's have the biggest pockets and pools of candidates in any extracurricular activity in any school and across the country in the world. It's sports. So part of my business is I would want to not be a fan, but know where I can get to those pockets of kids. So ready? Athletes will probably create other athletes. Smart people will create other smart people. It's so funny when your offices come to SC1, I can tell whose reps are from who, right? And when some of you show up and you don't have anyone, it's just you, I'll say, oh yeah, I knew that was going to happen. And when some of you show up with 5 reps and I go, are you from Erica's office? And they'll go, how did you know? I go, oh my gosh, that's Erica. That's like little Erica, right? And then when the whole squad walks in, you look and you go, that must be Boca, right? And you see, it's so obvious. And you have to take the same approach with the receptionist. This is a big one. How do they handle questions? We talked about this on Wednesday, okay? Are they able to handle questions the way we teach them, or are they handling it on their own, or are they not handling it at all? And the last 2 is creating urgency. Okay. The running joke at the DVM meeting 2 weeks ago was, hey, 2019, how managers set people for interviews. We were like it was like a mockery, right? Hey, what's up? Yeah, I'm the manager here. Cool. Yeah, it's pretty dope here. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you should check it out. For sure. Oh, for real. Yeah. Okay. Interview sure when you busy? Yeah, that is kind of busy, man. What do you got next week? No, you sure? In fact, we've got all the times, in fact, through August. So whatever you need, man, we got you. Like that was we were like role playing that, and all the DVMs and the executives were laughing. And then Scott said, and that's the reality. We all kind of sat quiet. We're like, oh shoot. Right? You ever watch any of you manage reps already? You ever see reps that just can't create urgency? Oh, ready? You just walk into the room. You get the tail end of their approach, and Luke walks in. Okay. I'll call you next week. Thanks. Bye. Like there's no urgency. And then you get a great rep that says, oh my gosh, I would totally call you next week. But you see, my deadline's tomorrow, and I promise you, I'll be real. And they have grit. They have no shame even. It's the same thing with urgency here. Be confident, and there's a system for that, how to do it. And then firming up properly. And we talked about, actually, these are all the last 2 weekly TLA preps, so I'm not going to go through all that. I'll stop there. Real quick, I'm just curious, and you can raise your hand or virtual blue hand. What, from what I covered, is new and a solid light bulb for you? And this is not to call you up, but this is to say, all right, let's assess where you guys are at with what it takes to have a great receptionist, why it's important. I'm just curious. And anyone who has run an office before, anyone who's about to run an office, doesn't matter your level.
Yeah, I have one job. Whoa. Are you guys muted? Okay. Wow.
Or just hit off. Off. Okay, let's go. Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, let's just do that.
Okay. Just they're not just receptionists, you know, they're a key role. I feel like that was really good in kind of framing my mindset because I haven't worked with receptionists before. So just like thinking they're actually a part of the team and kind of prefacing that the right way for them, that they're just as important as I am.
How you talk about them, how you treat them, it can be a big part of it too. Good. Other light bulbs or takeaways, especially from those of you that have never run an office, or Eric, if you're going to chime in on what you could, and David and Jackson, what you've experienced, any of them. We'll go Rob.
Well, that they're going to be the first impression of your office, something I never really thought of. I thought that I was always going to be their first impression, but they're going to be sitting in the front desk. So
yeah, ready? And I say this all the time. Here's what's crazy, and Luke, you'll appreciate this. Vector managers running hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of revenue, their business model and profit in many cases are at the mercy of a 19-year-old girl. Holy shit. I think about that. My business, and I say you can have male receptionists, of course, but the traditional, softer sounding, more inviting is a female voice. And like for years, my business has been at the mercy of 11 to 12 to 13 young 19, 20, 21-year-old receptionists who, if they don't follow the script or if they're having a bad day with their boyfriend and want to take it out and just not do the script that day, I'm screwed business-wise. So here's the cool thing. We've balanced that. It's not that dependent. In fact, now we have more control with fire number and assistance, but they still play an integral role. They still play an integral role. So good point. We'll take one or two more, then we'll roll to hiring. Nadamas?
I mean, I forgot about the surge of recruiting we got in the pilot from those two receptionists. I completely forgot that. Was like, that did a lot for us.
Brooke or Sloan, the dark-haired girl from Boca.
No, exactly. You're talking about.
I don't even know her name. That's so bad.
I remember my receptionist name.
We had 14. We hired 17 receptionists that summer. 12 stuck. So that's another thought in a second. Okay, let's go to the next sheet. If you could please open up. I'm going to close this one. How to hire a receptionist, social media assistant, and then the other one while you're at it, which is 5 steps to hiring. Okay. Call me old school, but I'm going to still bring up some of Beth's documents, even though this is the region document. Okay, the one that says how to hire a receptionist, social media assistant. This is a collaboration, and our goal, a product that you will have is the region scripts and programs for hiring, training, and developing and working with receptionists. Okay, this is going to be a Trey Ketchum and Ben Jackson led product, and it's going to be outstanding. But there are some keys that I think, and I'm biased because I believe Beth was the best DRM in the company. In fact, that's why she got the job that she had before she has the job now, right? Because she was the best DRM in the company. And so I want to start off with going macro to micro. I want to go get the overall big picture, and then we'll dive into the specifics in the scripts, which is easy, okay? So this is where I would say heavy note-taking. What I want you to get from this is how do I envision and simplify, okay, how do I hire receptionists? I have no idea what's going on. It's actually pretty basic. It's pretty simple. Number one, you have to advertise, okay? You have to advertise. And ad placement, okay? We'll talk about that in just a second. Number two, once you advertise, you have to screen the voicemails. And what does that mean? Well, everyone who applies will send and leave a voicemail on your cell phone. It's funny, sometimes I'll call branches and I'll use, like, say, Amanda as an example. Hi, you reach Amanda Swanson. I'll call her in the fall. Hi, you reach Amanda Swanson. I'm sorry. Hi, you've reached Amanda Swanson. You've reached Amanda Swanson, branch manager of the so-and-so market. If you're calling for about the receptionist position, please leave your name and number slowly and clearly. It's the same thing. And if this is a personal message, please text me and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you. And it's funny because most of your personal friends never leave a voicemail anyway. So they'll text you. And then you get hopefully hundreds, but tens of voicemails. And what you're going to do is you're going to listen to them. And some of them, you'll go ABC. See, from the moment that the voice inflection came through the phone, you went, ah, right? Beep. Ha! I'm coming. Okay. Whoa. Okay, that's a C. Okay. And you laugh, but you get those. True, ha! I'm coming. Oh, okay. Whoa. First impression, not for this company. Okay. You guys seen a Pitch Perfect? Right? So C. And the C's are, okay, I'm not even going to return the message. That's what saves you the time. Then you get to the B's where, okay, this isn't my first choice, but it could work if I had to. And then you have your A's. And just like Mac customers, you go Mac Plus down to Mac, down to not Mac. You go A, B, C in terms of your calling. C, you don't call. B, you call if you have to. And A, you start with. Questions or comments? We'll start with that. Pretty straightforward? Okay. I'm hopefully this is simplifying el proceso. I know that's not a word. Proceso, not procesio. Oh, procesito. Small little process. No, okay. Then you do the phone screen. This is where you'll call through. Okay. And there's a script, which I'll cover in just a second. And this is important.
Jeff,
Well, go ahead.
Yeah. Are there age restrictions for receptionists?
Let me.
In terms of like, do they have to be older than 16 or like what?
Yeah, that has come up before. So let me find out the exact. I can't speak confidently on that.
I
But
don't think he's thinking legally. I think he means how old should we have it.
oh, are you talking legally or talking about just in general, like for a good receptionist?
I mean, both.
Okay. Legally, let me find out. I'm pretty sure you can go 17 and when they're still in school. But here's the thing. Then you're going to recruit a bunch of 17 and high school kids, and you're not really going to connect with the college kids. So I prefer right out of college personally because they can connect, below them and certainly with them or above them. So, good question.
Would be an employee, wouldn't it be just legal hiring age of the state?
Yeah, that's what I'm going to ask. So, 3.
Wait, Jeff, you said college?
I prefer a college. I prefer a college.
Right?
I prefer a college receptionist. Not late in their college career, but early in their college career. Because if you get a high school teeny bopper, or even if they're mature for their age, they just can't relate. And I think you lose like the sophomores and juniors that apply that could be really good, but they're like, oh, there's like kids working there. Okay. Or it's not as impressive to them. Let's go to step 3. And do me a favor. I want to write questions. There's going to be a lot of questions on this. So write questions will come up at the end. Good question, Eric. Number 3, phone screening. Couple things to consider. Okay. Their voice. Like this is when you talk to them live. You're calling your A's. Call the A's first. B's if you need it. Don't call the C's. Voice. Male versus female. I think there have been some great male receptionists. Camilo, right? Yeah. Camilo was awesome. Camilo got 75% shows. Hudson
was great.
Killed it, but it's not as prevalent. Just to keep it in mind. Personality, attitude, confidence, schedule and availability. I have some receptionists. Well, I work here and I can't do this, or So for example, if someone has a family like that they raise, it's hard to commit to someone that's not necessarily going to be accountable, even if they're really professional. And sometimes experience. I don't mean just do they have good experience. Sometimes too much experience. You have a lot of overqualified because we're paying a $10, $12 an hour job versus some people come in with professional. I get a lot of I've been like administrative assistant for blank, which is a lot higher than what we do, or even executive assistant. That's executive assistants are making 60 to 80 plus. That's way over. Okay. And there's a script of why you explain yourself. There's basic questions, which we're going to cover on the next script and go from there. Last thing is the face-to-face interview, which we're going to review on the next page. Okay. So just to summarize, we place ads, we do the voice screen, we call the best ones, we bring them in for a live interview, and then we go from there. Questions or comments? Pretty straightforward. Those of you, this is a good part. For those of you that have run an office and have had to hire people before, does anyone have any tips, either don't do's or what I wish I had known before, or what I can just offer as really sound, sage advice from your experience? And David, you've hired a receptionist. Luke, who else has hired receptionists here before? Vargas has hired receptionists before. Okay, we'll go Luke, we'll go Vargas, and then we'll end with, who did I say? David.
First thing is overhire, just expect to have some fallout. And number 2 is tie them into your office goals. I think one thing you're going to be doing is not just
unmute.
Sorry,
decline this robocall.
Okay.
Hold on.
Hello.
Hello. Is that the food? Wow.
Okay. You know what, Luke? I'll mute you.
Do it from there. Overhire receptionist, and then number 2, tie them into your office vision. I think they are just making calls all day, and that's a pretty awful job, if you ask me. If you could tie it into something bigger than themselves and really get them engaged with the team, those are the receptionists that really crush it. And that's why so many former Cutco people make the best receptionists. Where where a lot of times we're focused on reps that just don't want to sell anymore, and those are the receptionists. Sometimes those are the best ones because they understand the bigger vision. So find a way to get your receptionists. That probably, if you're in a branch market, most likely not going to happen. So you need to find a way to get them tied into your team. So I'm going to make it mandatory for my receptionists to be at least one team meeting so they can see like a what I'm building talk.
Yeah, I mean, one of the requirements of the receptionist interviews, they sit through a rep interview. Yeah. Like and here's a big downfall. I've come into branch offices back when we had reception full blown, and I walk in, I'll say this office is screwed from the moment I meet the receptionist, like from either unprofessional, not following scripts, not attracting the right people, terrible phone voice, a complicated name. Right now, you can get around that. Why? You can give them the receptionist name. Okay. Like we've had some, like just really like Blythe. I had a Blythe one time, and it was like, I'm sorry, what? I'm Mary.
I'm Batman.
I'm Mary. I'm Batman. I'm Batman. Okay. Number 2. Okay, I can tell by the office. And then number 2, they don't even know what the rep job is. One of my best receptionists, Jamie. She has a new name. Anyway, Jamie Liberatos was her maiden name. And Jamie, I would hear all the time, no, you heard that? That is not what this is. Oh my gosh, my friend works here, and these products, like they were selling a little too much, and they would get the people to come in because they believed in the job. So make sure they sit through the rep interview. Other thoughts? We'll go to David Vargas, and then we'll go to Delgado.
Yeah, I was definitely going to say the building, what I'm building talk for the receptionist. The other thing I would say, start early, because you don't want to get stuck with a B or a C just because you didn't start early enough.
Yeah. I also have pain now, pain later syndrome. I see a lot, right?
Yeah.
They have to settle on Bs. Then the summer gets rolling. I'm just too busy. I don't have time to find more receptions, and they just stick with the ones that are hurting their business. I'm quick to fire. I'm slow to hire, quick to fire. You hear that? I'm slow to hire. That's an old Cutco phrase. I'm slow to hire, quick to fire. Okay. David, you were going to continue. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, yeah, definitely. I know that's one thing I did wrong my first branch. I got stuck with a couple of C's that just ruined everything from down there. And the other thing is make sure you get people that they can work on Sundays and Saturdays. For me, it's you can't work on a Sunday, you can't work for me.
Yeah, that's what I have. If you can't work on Sundays at all, that we don't have that opening. Like that's just not available for us.
Yep, and obviously non-smokers, pregnant women, which sounds kind of horrible, but they
you have to, David. You have to be careful. That's illegal to say that. Like you could have just gotten.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So you ready?
Are we recording?
It isn't. Well, I'm just saying it's not preferred to have someone has to rate. I said this earlier. More PC.
Yeah.
It's harder to work with someone who has a family because their time constraints and their commitments are so all over the place. You have to be really careful with that. But you can't use that as basis. That's discrimination. You get sued for that.
Yeah,
David.
That is true.
Okay. It's the same reason why you can't say, hey, how old are you? You can't ask that question on an interview, word for word. If someone records you saying that, you can go get fined and, they can do discrimination to you. And then you can't say you can't ask really intrusive but really deep questions like Biggie, Tupac, or Jay-Z. You can't. No? Okay, never mind. We'll go to Delgado quickly and then we'll roll.
Biggest tip is
Are you on mute? No, you're good.
Yeah. Biggest tip I would say is we're talking about hiring and upgrading, but how do you hire and upgrade? Be sure to know how to check the stats on Vector Live. If you don't know how to check your stats on Vector Live, talk to your manager, talk to your district manager, talk to someone who knows. Because if you don't check those stats, that was my biggest mistake of my first summer. I had a staff there. I tied them in; they were tied in, but their stats, and we were not improving upon them. It was lack of my part of checking the stats versus the second round of hires that I had afterwards. they were, always on at the time we had the receptionist newsletter. They were always on the report. They were improving, and the job office was a completely different story at that point.
Yeah,
so make sure
it's like when you manage your reps and their demos and hold them accountable, and you don't. It's the same thing. So okay, let's go to the next document, shall we? And this is one of those plug and play. And you ask me, hey, how do we hire a receptionist? And I say, look at the dim script, right? So we're going to do a little bit of an exercise on this one. Ways to recruit before you are in your territory versus ways to recruit when you're in your territory. I think this is a great piece that Ben Jackson, Trey, and Mel put together from the region. First of all, ways to recruit before you even get to Naples, before you even get to Caguas, before you get to anywhere that's even far or down the street. Number one is social media posts. Okay, and there's some tips and examples below, like copy and paste ads. Okay, so if you go to the bottom, right, here's some social media posts you can put ahead of time before you get out. Here are also some messages you can send out directly. Here are some pictures you can copy and paste and put into your account. See where it says link to example receptionist social media Google Drive. And this is okay. That's an example. Okay. Now here's it's a little bit of a different philosophy here, right? This is going to a Google form, and you have to call the whole Google form. I personally wouldn't do that. I perhaps would have them apply here. I actually don't even like the Google form for this. I like old school, call here. That way it saves you time. Otherwise, you're calling a lot of C's that you don't need to call. Okay. And we can revisit that. Okay. Number two, advertise with lit when you're office searching or signing your lease. So when you're in your territory, it's a good thing to have receptionist posters made, and we'll have those. So maybe make a note. When I go office searching, how can I go and flyer, not student work, not FL student work, not college student broke, call us for a job. I mean, have actual receptionist flyers out and start targeting people when you're on campus. Yeah, on the A Squad you can. Are you on A Squad group? Okay. Again, I personally don't like the Google Doc for touches. Okay, but we can revisit that. I think having them call so you can screen out the low voices, the bad voices, and then interview over FaceTime or Skype if needed, if you want to do that ahead of time. Okay. So for example, I'm running an office in Fort Lauderdale. Oh, I have a lot of friends from there. In fact, my friend's sister might be good for a receptionist. Now I hear that a lot. A little disclaimer. I personally don't like working with friends and family if I don't have to. There's some cases that it works. But some of you have a heart, like some of you aren't even good at managing reps. What makes you think you're going to be good at managing someone you're related to? Right? It's tough. I had my brother was a receptionist. I remember, and I'm just quoting. I remember one time I addressed the show, and whatever I said, he said, "Hey, fuck you, dude." That was my brother, the doctor. Now he goes, fuck you. And I went, yeah, I probably said that wrong. I didn't know. I would say I was probably reciting some type of a how to address script to my brother when I could have just said, dude, this is so bad. Can we fix that? Like I could have met him where he's at, but I decided to try and manage him, and I just got a big F you from my brother. It was awesome. The next day was fine, but you deal with that. So I wouldn't usually go with family. Next part, ways to recruit when you're in your territory. Okay. So obviously the posters you'll hang up at schools. Okay. Coffee shops, common places of interest, homemade flyers, campus, high school tables, if you're running those. This is the biggest one I find. When you're brand new and you're Facebook blasting, you're bringing people in for group interviews. Okay. I like looking in the rep interviews. One of my top two, actually Beth Shishmanian, #1 of all time, Jackie Finelli, previous to Beth was the position of DRM, #2 of all time, and Jamie Steiner. My top 3 receptionists of my career were all people that came in for the rep job. Okay. And the short version is, Erica, okay, great. And you looking for part-time, full-time work?
Part-time.
Part-time, okay. Minimum, what, 20 plus hours?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. Now, Erica, and I go through, we do have 2 positions that we're looking to fill right now. The first is our rep position, which would start a little bit later on in the summer, but I have one that's starting immediately, and I think this would fit your, and I think I'd like to interview for both. I think things are looking that good right now. Can I talk about both real quick? And I'm going to sell them on both. I'll say, okay, well, we have the rep position, and that would start a little bit later on. Why does it start a little later on? Because I want them to be a receptionist first. But the receptionist position that I have now is a lot more stable. So I'm almost selling them off the job a little bit to come back. It's a little more stable to start, where it's a guaranteed hourly pay and set hours. Does that sound like something good to start? Okay, great. And then I go through, and then later on, once she's a receptionist, I'm going to sell her on, hey, we're going to make you a rep at some point. Okay, but my best receptionists that come from interviews. Okay. Some of you that have had offices before, like the Erics of the world and Luke's, and you know people, if you have someone coming back, I would be targeting someone who's sold at a high level that's excited to come back for a receptionist, not a rep. No doubt. No doubt. Ways to recruit in your territory. Also make an announcement at a team meeting. That's, later on in the summer when you need help. Okay. I'm going to stop there for a second. If we could do a quick brainstorm. All right. Let's just play the hypothetical question. Oh, this is where my new lighting and stand would come into play. Oh, man. Okay. You see my new setup. I could be a blogger.
Exciting.
Yeah. So if we had to figure out a way, and let's say I have no receptionist applications right now. Let's quickly go through all the different ways you can find receptionist touches so that you can have them call you, or if we're going to do Google Form, that's another way too, to potentially staff. And that even means like you had 3 and 3 all decided to look something up online. They decided this was a scam and they all said, we're not coming into work. It's Saturday. All right, let's talk about that. So let's go general, easy. You're getting to your territory, you're thinking about your territory. Let's go around. What are some ways, Luke?
I think I got 2 from this my branch summer. I just sat at Starbucks and did work and waited for all the, preppy white girls to walk in and recruit them.
I love that. How many of you have been to a Starbucks and then you see people having what seems to be like a network marketing recruiting meeting, and you have usually a guy who looks like they could be a district manager with us usually. That age, like this, not quite suit supply buttoned up, but not like a mess, just like kind of in between. Yeah. And they're sitting here and they're talking, about, and you hear words like opportunity, right? Potential, self-employed. They're selling like ACN and World Marketing Alliance. You name it. Okay. Well, there's a reason that it happens a lot at the Starbucks is that it's a big flow of people. So what I would say is going up, hey, if you know anyone that's looking, if you or anyone looking for work, we're hiring, and just pass it out. Okay, just like I just walked into my office and there are advertisements for a music festival. Like I don't love that, but it is advertising. Like that's not the way I'd want to get my receptionist ideally, but if it works, okay, so good. Starbucks. Other ways to get receptionists. What are some other ways if you had to find touches for receptionists, Rob?
Being selective.
Say it one more time.
Getting surveys of
Yeah, so surveys. Okay, pulling surveys and making a note. So let's say I get 100 surveys. Let's say Christina Fernandez comes up. Okay, wow, this girl could be a receptionist. Okay, come through. Or this Davida Delgado. Oh, she could be really good. She's really, really smart, really connected. And I would make notes. Back in the day when we had the group interviews, and you can do this now, we would have a file called the receptionist file. And anytime I had an application, okay, because you guys know we don't really use the applications after the interview. I would keep those applications into a receptionist file and keep that pile near me so that if an emergency, I could call someone back and say, hey, I know it didn't work out for the rep position, but we are looking to fill some hourly receptionist positions. Okay, so same thing with surveys. You could do that with interview. What else?
Could you Facebook Jumpstart?
Yep. Please don't make the mistake of thinking that Jumpstart is just for great reps. Mm-hmm. In fact, that might be the greatest tool ever to find your receptionists from Jumpstart if possible, because you know everything about them. Instagram and all that social media. Speaking of Instagram, okay. I just saw that. Follow me. My podcast is dropping. Follow me, ClickFunnels, buy these products. And I'll tell you the third key after 30 minutes. They got me. Okay, other ones. So posters, and I put hand to hand, not combat. hand to hand, like going anywhere, in hand.
Could you use like reps, like recommendations from friends, like of reps on the team that they know are looking for work?
Rep PRs.
Well, hopefully you have your receptionist before you have your reps.
Yeah, ideally you have receptionists before. This is emergency situations. Luke.
Got a lot of mine from my receptionist. So once you have one, you just have them recommend all their friends, like a pyramid.
Yep, like a pyramid scheme. Exactly. We go full blown pyramid scheme to get receptionists from receptionists. But the pipeline pays off.
I would have, like, once I had my first one, I just said, hey, $50 for anyone else that could be a receptionist.
Did you hear that? Luke said, I'll offer you $50 for anyone that becomes a receptionist. That is such a low cost. What's that? You launched 2 reps.
Nothing. I was like, I would have paid you $200.
Yeah. If you really do the math, and I haven't done it. I haven't gone through the math, but if you think about what would be worth it and like the pain tolerance, if you look at how much money they make you could argue spending $500 to a G bonus per new receptionist makes sense in the biggest offices. So I got to believe $25, $50 is nothing. Okay. Any other avenues of getting receptionists here? No. Okay. And we'll wrap up. This is pretty straightforward and simple. Okay. So if you look, tips for social media. Okay. You obviously know all the different avenues on social media you can use. Okay, that's right here. Also, the same way that you would search for Facebook Jumpstart, like this one, Greenwood High School Class of 2019, focus on high school. Focus on seniors in high school and freshmen in college groups. To Eric's point, this is what Ben says. I don't mind. Again, I don't mind high school seniors, but if I can, I prefer if they're both equally sharp and I had to pick one, I'd pick the one in college because they can relate to two different parties. Okay. Also, check with managers. I'm going to be sending out in a couple of weeks just contact information of some past reps that you can reach out to. Don't be so. And I'm going to say this, don't be so greedy that you fight really hard to try and recruit someone back to sell a lot of Cutco for you, when if you didn't have to work as hard and didn't push it, you would have gotten them back as a receptionist. Let's say Erica's an old rep in Fort Lauderdale, and I call her and I keep trying to push her. You know, some people just are over the selling thing very quickly. In fact, some of you kind of acted like that this fall and spring. Different story, right? So let's just say you're overselling. But if we're pushing them to come back and sell, you have no shot. But if you say, you know what, I really like working with you, and I have an opportunity where it would be in the office and around the environment, but you wouldn't be selling. Now, there's a little bit of danger in that, because if my point is I like receptionists who believe in the position, maybe they believe in the position. I've had receptionists who they were reps, and you know what, they didn't pan out as reps, but they spoke really highly of it. Mm-hmm. Chase Winston. Yeah. Here's an example. Okay. Okay, so these are all the posts. Okay. And then last few things, and I'm not going to read this word for word, but how do you schedule candidates for interviews? Okay. And I'll read this. The initial call is the best way to make sure you're using your time efficiently and only interviewing qualified candidates. Remember that your callers cannot consistently bring in people higher quality than themselves. Okay. So this is assuming that they did a Google form, which is, again, I don't love this. Hi, Erica. This is Jeff from Vector. I'm calling about the position you inquired on. Okay. I'm sorry. I take this back. This is after you've screened their voice calls. This is the script to when you are calling someone that didn't sound like those funny examples I gave earlier. Okay. And then once you go through, it's pretty straightforward. We'll review this a little bit closer. And then when they come in for an interview, pretty straightforward of what you cover. I'm not going to read through it, but you guys have a full template for, I'll read the big bullets, right? Introduction of the company and your history. You cover essentially a group interview in 12 minutes. Okay. You explain the purpose of the interview. Go through their qualifications. Okay. And I always like to do it's in there. You want to make sure you role play the approach and hear how they sound reading. Sometimes someone will sound killer on the phone, but they just can't read confidently, or they get nervous when they're on the phone, or live. Okay, any questions on that? Pretty straightforward. I'll stop there. I'm going to come up for air in just 2 seconds. Here we go. Okay. So here's what's I think most pertinent to this message. The scripts are in there, like what to do when you call through the B's and A's, and then what you do to interview them. The reason I'm not going into full-blown details because this is months, this is weeks, and then some cases months away. But you have to have some familiarity with this. Okay. Any other questions? David, you've hired the most receptionists on this call besides me. You have any other, just specifically on hiring? Vargas? No. You don't care about a receptionist? You hate the program? You don't believe in this cause? What? Unmute. There you go.
There you go. Was having technical difficulties.
Okay.
No, hiring's actually pretty simple. You just really have to make sure you're comfortable with the person you get, and that you actually, really listen. I always record my interviews. Obviously, I ask them. That way, if I'm not completely sure about someone, I can just go back and listen to how they sounded.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's something that really helped me. That way, I can make the best informed decision.
Yeah, and as of right now, moving forward,
You're muted, Jeff.
and to the point, as of right now, moving forward, our advertisements are going to direct everyone to call your cell phone. Okay, because I like the Google form in the sense that it's just going to organize everything. But I hate the Google form because you're going to spend lots of hours. It's going to be hours calling through people that the moment they pick up the phone, you wouldn't have want them on the team, but you have to at least go through some type of an approach because you can't call them and then say, oh, sorry, and hang up on them.
Mm-hmm.
But you can check their voice and not call them back. You see that? Okay. Here's what I will say. Just like recruiting, you can't look for the elite receptionist to start if you don't have that luxury. So it's better to staff and then upgrade later. I'm saying that for the second time. And ready? Here, and Luke, maybe you agree, maybe don't. David, if you agree. David, if you agree. It's not hiring that's hard. It's training and retention. It's getting the results and retention that's hard.
Yeah, for retention.
It's getting, and you know what? I would say the easiest is hiring. The next easiest is, I would say, retention, because a lot of you are going to retain really bad receptionists. And then the hardest one is retention plus like performance, which undercover is one of the top 3 to 5 badass mega skills on the 5-star journey. How to manage employees. Really cool experience. Okay, how about this? 30 seconds for top takeaways. Go ahead and write them down, please. Or some action steps or questions to follow up on WhatsApp. And then we'll share a few before we go to a quick. We're not going to a full-blown lunch. Remember, I ordered food in, but I want you guys to grab your food, start eating, and then we'll do a working lunch in just a second. Another 15 seconds. Either big takeaways or light bulbs. Oh, I'm sorry, action steps rather. Light bulbs, action steps. Let's go around the horn. Who's got some? Who's got a few? We'll go Trent Hampel. Welcome.
How you mentioned, it's kind of ironic how hundreds of thousands of dollars of Vector offices are kind of at the hands of a 19-year-old girl. That little joke, but basically just making sure that how vital their role is, making sure what they're doing is good, and they can't bring in someone who's higher quality than they are. So they need to be very high quality when you bring them in.
Yeah. You know what? I'm not worried about having a 19-year-old college student, dictate my business, because I'm just going to make sure that and ensure that they're doing it in the right way. And if they're not, they'll be gone quickly. But we control staff set PRs and fire numbers. So that's my, not insurance. That's the bulk of it. Cool. Other takeaways or action steps? Christina Fernandez, Puerto Rico.
The takeaway is like the calling versus Google form. And I guess my action step is actually getting the voicemail from my phone because I don't have one. So.
Yeah, that'd be helpful. Can you create one on Google Voice if you need to? Yeah, you can do that. Other takeaways?
I have one.
Erica, go ahead.
Giving $50 to the receptionist who bring in someone who becomes a receptionist.
Yeah, bounty bonus.
Yeah.
Bounty bonus. Create the pyramid scheme in your office within proximity. It's awesome.
Bonus, then you get a residual income.
Residual, then you build it out, the network, and then the pipeline, and the residual income. Cool. Eric Palacio.
Jackson, the return on investment for reception is just wild. You get one receptionist to bring in a kid who sells $6K, and you make $1,000 off of that. That covers their entire cost for the entire summer just off one person. and everything else is extra. You get them to bring in 4
Is he frozen for everyone else?
their PRs plus the extra sales. The extra sales. They literally pay for themselves. It's not like it's return on investment's wild.
Yeah. It's amazing. Well said, Eric. Okay. It is now, I have 12:28. Okay. If I'm assuming the pizzas have arrived and the food is there, I would love it if we could get back together. Let me see. Let me look at the time here. 12:15, scheduled till 1. Can we get back at, because I'm going to watch a video with you guys on office searching just to make sure. Let's get back in 12 minutes. How about 40? 12:40? Can we just grab the food, start munching, and at 12:40, back up a video, okay? Thanks, guys. Run, 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 run.